And that's why, it sounds too simple, but if you can just shift your mindset from I'm trying to sell something to I'm trying to serve people, it shifts your frequency. You move from the performer to the motivator. You move from the manipulator to the challenger. You move from the dictator to the commander. So you instantly shift when you're going, I'm not here to sell, I'm here to serve. And I'm here to help people solve problems in their life that I've trained myself to have the skills to know how to solve that problem for them. Without me, that problem is going to circle around their life forever. And I can change the quality of their life. And so the moment you begin to make that shift, your frequency changes.
It's that time of the year, the #1 door-to-door conference in the world, Door to Door Con 8, January 7th through the 9th. Now, we have done this now 8 years, and we have over 60 amazing workshop and panel speakers where we dive into leadership, recruiting, investments, sales skills, different industries from pest workshops to solar workshops to retail. And we have found people leaving transformative. This year is going to be extra special. We're adding an owner's day for free on the 7th. So come to Salt Lake City, Utah, get your ticket, come celebrate this amazing industry that we live in, and come as a team, learn as a team, and leave as a tribe. Don't hesitate, don't wait, don't be like, oh, I'll get it later. Click the link below. What's up, everybody? This is Sam Taggart with the D2D podcast, and I have a co-host, my beautiful wife today.
I'm so honored to be on. I'm excited.
D Taggart, and we are here with a very special guest. For those that have not heard of this man, he is going to be gifting us with his presence at Door to Door Con 8, January 8th and 9th. And I have some cool secrets in this podcast. I'm gonna share why I got Erwin, because he has been a long time coming of men I would like to meet in the flesh and get to know and build a relationship with. And so a little backstory of our guest, Erwin McManus today. He is best-selling author of many, many books, and many of which I've read and we'll talk about. I actually have a stack of them with me today. And we just started his newest book, The 7 Frequencies of Communication, which we'll go over. And guys, he has coached some of the highest level people, like, the owner of the Rams, and to just like traveled the world, spoken 100 different countries, and just all things.
6 continents.
Yeah, all 6 continents. Like, it's just crazy. Like, he's written one of my favorite books he's wrote was Mind Shift, and he's been a mental performance coach for so many people. He's a pastor of a church, Mosaic, which is globally renowned, and he just awesome, man. Like The Way of the Warrior, The Last Arrow. Some of you guys might even like recognize the titles of some of these books, but not even realize Erwin is the magic behind the book. And, I just love his faith-based training. I love his way of going about, like, his amazing podcast that he has. He's interviewed amazing people like Ed Milet and so many, like, just done so many things. Like, I could go on and on. I was like, Erwin, how do you want me to bring you on? I was like, there's no short bio for Erwin. And so anyway, appreciate you being on the show, man. I'm excited to see you in January and with our mastermind group out in Iceland in 2025, which is exciting. And anyway, so welcome to the show, man. Excited to have you.
No, I'm so glad to be with you guys, and just to get to at least meet you virtually, and look forward to meeting you face to face. Thanks so much for inviting me to be a part of the 2025 journey with you guys, and so looking forward to it. And one of the places I've never been to is Iceland. And so I'm excited about being there with you guys.
No, that's a big deal. So obviously, guys, I was supposed to be doing this in person. I broke my tailbone, so I had to reschedule virtually. And anyway, so I'll kick it off. Then we'll keep short, quick answers for the first little rapid fire. I have like a million questions, and I'm sure Dee does too. But favorite book you've written? Because you've written
that's like asking someone, who your favorite child is, even if you have one you can't say. And
I've written 4 books now. I just am publishing my latest, and there's like a journey that you're going through at the time of writing a book. I'm assuming it's like you have an idea, you're spiritually in this battle, or you're going through a life situation, and you're like, that should be a book. So obviously, like, you spent many years with the pen or with the computer. So I'm curious, like maybe even just tell us a cool experience you've had around writing a book and how it's impacted you maybe.
Yeah, I would say when you ask me favorite book, for me, it's maybe even more detailed. Maybe my favorite chapter in the book is the opening chapter of the 7 frequencies of communication. Just dealing
Hertz. We're gonna go into that.
And
keep going.
So that's probably my favorite chapter, maybe of any book I've ever written. My favorite line is the opening line of The Way of the Warrior, that says the warrior is not ready for battle until he has come to know peace. And that opening sentence for me is one of my favorite sentences in a book. And so I'm very, I'm kind of like a blend of very, very big picture and then very, very, very micro detailed, and which makes me probably psychotic. But, I pay attention to every sentence, every word, even the number of words in a sentence, the number of words in a paragraph and a page. And because for me, writing is both an art and a science. The science of it is you're trying to bring life change to a person through the truth you're transmitting. But the art of it is you're trying to create the environment inside of a person that allows them to change. And so there's this poetry to it. And hopefully, there's also like principles as you're bringing those things together. I love writing. I think words are an incredible tool that unlock something inside of us. Just the right phrase or the right way of saying something can change a person's life forever. And then I think maybe I love writing because books really impacted me. And when I was a kid, I'm an immigrant from El Salvador and grew up in Miami and New York. But this kid that lived behind us, it was older than me, introduced me to science fiction. And I'm 8, 9 years old reading Contraband. I'm reading these books by these physicists like Robert Heinlein and Isaac Asimov. And I'm flunking out of elementary school while I'm reading these really complicated books. And those books expanded my imagination. They helped me see the potential of futures that did not exist, of a person I could become. It expanded my imagination, my ability to dream and to ask questions. So I know how someone wrote something on a paper and it changed my life. And so I always take that with me every time I write. I go, I know that if I can put something here in a unique way, it could explode inside of someone's brain and change their life forever.
That's amazing. And the first chapter, 7 frequencies, I think was life-changing for D. You want to talk about?
I resonate so deeply with the words that you speak. And that was the whole essence of that chapter. And I feel like everything was spoken into existence. And so your words have so much power. And you articulated that so well, and how you use your words to dictate your reality and your personal belief, your other people's belief. And so I love that you said that's the way that you transform the mind, the heart, the soul, was through the power of words. And so I deeply resonate, and that would make sense that it's your favorite chapter and favorite chapter you've written, because I think it's one of the most powerful chapters just in what we know from the beginning of times. Like, this whole world was spoken into existence and everything was created with words. And so I really resonated deeply with that.
Well, Dio,
I think that the first and last sentence of chapter 1, the first sentence says, words are magic.
Magic, yes.
Yes. And abracadabra. And then the very last sentence in that chapter says, words are life.
Mm-hmm.
And so the chapter's journey is taking you from a place of seeing words as magic to words as life.
Love that.
That is so cool. I love hearing it from the authors. Yes. Oh, I mean, you think of, if you're a sales guy listening to this, the way that you communicate is how you get your business. And if you're a business owner, the way that you command and lead, words are so powerful. And, another piece of that chapter that I thought was so impactful for Dee, and she pops up. She's like, Sam, you need to read this. Was this concept of the whale and 52 Hertz. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
So good.
Yeah, it was in the early 90s. I think I stumbled across this phenomenon of this one whale that was traveling, I think, the Pacific Ocean by itself. And they couldn't identify what species it was, because if you only have one of something, it's not really a species. You have to have two, and you have to, and this is a cluster of them. And it was closest to, I think, a blue whale, But what made it different was that blue whales speak in what's, I think, like 10, 20 to 40 hertz. And this one whale would only make a sound at 52 hertz. And so what happened is whenever this whale would be searching for other whales, sending out a signal at 52 hertz, no other whale could hear him. And when other whales were sending out their messaging, their call at 40 hertz, he could not hear them. And so literally this is the loneliest whale in the world. It could not find community because it couldn't get on the same frequency. And when I first found that study and discovered that phenomenon, it was very personal to me. I wasn't thinking of a broad universal concept. I was really trying to make sense of my own life and go, I think I lived my life at 52 hertz and I've felt both unheard and I don't know how to hear other people. I think that there's a huge disconnect in my own human experience. And it's really funny because I looked at both your 7 frequencies, you both took the assessment. And so I get to see all 7 of your frequencies. And so your number 7 frequency is my number 1 frequency. And that's really the way I've kind of lived my life, where I have, unfortunately, I guess, a frequency that is not common. And so it's very hard to hear. And then you have to learn throughout your life how to translate from your frequency to other people's frequencies. And maybe that's why I became an expert in human communication, because I really wanted to understand how to make a connection to other people.
It's so powerful.
So powerful.
And I think everyone in their own self-experience has that kind of dilemma of like even just communicating their feelings, communicating their ideas, communicating their beliefs, their values. And they, a lot of times, because maybe their family, friends don't hear them, they do feel that same loneliness. And it's like finding your tribe. And, you know, it's funny, even when we launched Door-to-Door-Con, I was like, man, this is like a weird event. Who's going to come to this, you know? But it's like, wait, there's a tribe of people that like to do this job that is so hard, that is, you know what I mean? And all of a sudden I start meeting people. I'm like, yeah, I get you. Like, we do the thing, you know what I mean? Like, and you could kind of speak that same lingo. And as we've journeyed on, you know, we've moved much more into like a spiritual realm and much more into a, you know, different just context. And as you evolve in life, your frequency continues to evolve as well. So does your environments, your tribes, your communities, etc. So
100%.
Anyway, I thought that was beautiful. Speaking of another chapter of your book that a lot of people don't know,
this is cool.
This is a cool, like, guys, let me give some context. First outreach to Erwin and McManus. And I don't know if you remember this. I sent you a DM on Instagram because I'm reading a chapter in Mind Shift, which gave me the entire idea. So anybody that went to Door-to-Door-Con last year, Erwin actually had creative impact on this. And in page 50, he talks about this concept of, you know, who's going to go first and eat the mushroom. And he's like, hey, last year at Door-to-Door-Con, I reenacted this leadership concept of eating the mushroom. Is it poisonous? Is it not? Like, do you make somebody else eat it if you're starving? And anyway, tell us a little bit about. I don't know. Do you remember that story of me reaching out or sending you the video? Did you watch that? Like,
I actually do. I do remember you sending that to me. I don't remember our whole conversations, but obviously that the mushroom eater is a metaphor that has been a huge part of my life. And it was pretty funny. Because I was backstage going on a TV show and decades ago. And the person before me was someone I really admired. They were like a leadership expert. They were, you know, writers, so many books, and I'd read all their stuff. And, you know, so I was definitely like a fan. And he's up there teaching on the show that don't be a mushroom eater, you know, and never be the first one. And because the first person dies because they eat the poisonous mushroom, and be the second one. He's literally saying, don't ever be first, be second. And that way you can see whether it's poisonous or not. And then you live and you get to actually build on the benefit of someone else's risk. And I'm backstage going, okay, how does the math play out on that? Because but that's the way my brain kind of works, is like, okay, let's plug in this formula. If everyone, and that's the way I normally think through things, I take them to the full extreme. If everyone applies what he said, what's going to happen? We all die. Because if no one's first, we all die. And we all die of hunger. We all die of fear. We all die of paralysis. And you can only have a second person if there is a first person. And so in just those few moments, I'm brought on stage, and it's one of those shows where whoever the last guest was stays on the show, right? And then now I'm on there with him. And so now I have the full force of this massive authority, and me, who I was really young. I think it was like 30 years ago. So, I'm in my 30s. I'm still proving myself in the world. My concepts are, futuristic concepts, and people aren't really sure if I'm on target. And I just said, hey, I just want to thank you. You just gave me my life metaphor. And he goes, well, what's that? And I said, I'm a mushroom eater. And I'm the person that chooses to eat the mushroom and is willing to die so that you can eat. And I just, basically said, look, I know it's irrational, but the world only changes if someone chooses to eat the mushrooms. If everyone waits to go second, we all die. And that just like set the metaphor for my life, because that's the way I'd lived my life. And I can't tell you how many times I would have people tell me, I know it needs to be done, but why you? Mm-hmm. And it usually was someone who loved me, and someone who really cared about me, someone who wanted me to live a more reasonable life. And so it's hard to argue with reasonable people, because in the world of reason, he was right. Don't be the one that eats the mushrooms. It's perfectly logical. It's a perfect survival strategy if you're focused on your survival. But if you're focused on the survival of your tribe, or the survival of your family, or the survival of humanity, then it's the worst strategy humanly possible. And I think sometimes in this sense, we become less ambitious because we're just about ourselves.
It's unreal. Like, and again, that's the 52 Hertz. He's on his own frequency. He's like, yeah, you guys are all, playing a game of survival, where I'm trying to play a game of moving the needle for humanity. I'm trying to play a game of helping you guys survive. And I have to take risks and have lonely nights. And I mean, I think any entrepreneur has probably felt that, in the sense of, I didn't take payroll for the last 3 months because I paid you guys. Or I took a risk and left a comfortable W-2 nice salary, and I left and did this. Like, why? Because I'm trying to set up my life for the future. You know what I mean? Or like whatever thing is. And I think there's so many applications to that.
Yeah, and this providing more opportunity for other people. I think that's like a huge thing, is when you do take the risk that you are the mushroom eater, you do provide that long-term value for and make a more lasting impact on a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of first-generation entrepreneurs are terrible disappointments to their family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because they didn't choose the safe job, the safe route, the safe choice that guaranteed a stable income. Mm. They gave up the safe for the impossible or the uncertain. And so it's like, if you're the first-generation entrepreneur, everyone in your family will tell you you're wrong and irresponsible until you succeed. And then when you succeed, suddenly everybody's dependent on you, and all of a sudden everybody loves you and is celebrating you. But if you wait for someone to tell you you should, you never will.
So powerful.
Powerful.
And it resonated so much with me because of our industry. I'm like, people they drop out of college, or they leave their safe job to go knock on doors, and as 1099, self-made, Eat What You Kill, which is the new book I have coming out. And it's like, so many people they throw rocks at it. They're just like, you're crazy. Why are you doing that? When are you going to get a real job? I mean, that is literally the pretense. And so I shared that message on stage, but I actually enacted it. So I put 4 mushrooms up on the thing, and I said, one of these. So I pulled it. I said, I need a volunteer, a leader, random out of the crowd.
Out of the crowd.
And I said, hey, will you get 4 mushrooms choices. One of these is poisonous, and it'll make you shit your pants in 15 minutes. One of these is psychedelic. You'll be tripping in 15 minutes. And then 2 of them are completely edible and fine. And I said, you have the option to, and I made him sign a waiver, and I said, hey, you have an option to either pick someone out of the crowd to play the go first, or you can go first. Because we're all going to die dependent on you. And I acted out, and then I said, sit there. So he chose to do it. He ate the mushroom, signed the waiver. And I said, just sit right there, and everybody keep your eye on him. And through the rest of the speech, I just like, hey, how you doing? You doing okay? You doing? And he had no idea. It was so good. Everybody's like, wait, did Sam just really do that? So anyway, I wanted to share that. And I love
that. That is so good.
It was, and there's 3,000 people in the audience. You know what I mean? They're tripping. Like, they're just like, dudes, like,
waiting
no
for
way.
him to just like drop into something.
You should have had a setup and have him like black out like 8
Oh,
minutes.
Yeah. That would have been even more entertaining.
Oh, it would have been fun. No, we didn't set it up. Like, I truly was like, let's just like leave this to the authenticity of what it could be. So I thought you'd appreciate that as, you know, an author, you know, sometimes when you never know, like some dude randomly buys your book that was gifted from, you know, his wife that then reads this chapter that then goes somewhere. And I think that's the power of reading. I mean, I remember when I was first in door-to-door, just getting into sales, it was like, I've only read 3 books in my life. You know what I mean? Like I hated reading, and now I've written 4, you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't know how it's going to impact. So I wanted to share that with you. So let's talk about.
By the way, I love your title, Eat What You Kill.
Yeah, it's why do
So good.
what does it mean to you? I guess that's a question. What does Eat What You Kill mean to you? It's becoming a sales carnivore, but like, I guess in your journey as an entrepreneur, how have you, like, what does that mean to you?
By the way, well, there's a proverb in the Bible that says, the laborer's hunger works for him. And, you know, and so it's like, what he's basically saying is, if you're hungry, you work harder. It's what drives you. And the way to kill someone's intention, their passion, their proactivity is to feed them. Right? Because, you know, you ever wonder why, you know, they're birds that don't fly, right? Like chickens. And there's only 2 things you need to do to domesticate like a bird. You have to feed it and keep it safe, because it only needs to fly for 2 reasons: to hunt and to not be hunted. And so if you take any animal and you domesticate them by feeding them, they don't have to fly to hunt, and you keep them in a fence and keep them protected, they don't have to flee. And that's exactly what happens to us human beings. That's why we have trust fund kids. That's why we have the problems of entitlement, is because if you're fed and protected, you lose your hunger.
It's the same concept of what Jesus taught: teach a man to fish.
Yeah. And so it's like, so when I saw your title, Eat What You Kill, I'm like, you know, it's really going back to this like barbaric core of going, you know, the only life that's available for you is the life you fight for.
Yes.
You know, and I remember early on, even in my like faith journey, I would tell people, I said, there's a difference between a lion and a tiger. And they go, well, what? And I said, a lion hunts when he's hungry. A tiger hunts when he's awake. And a tiger hunts because he loves the thrill of the hunt. And as dark as it is, he loves the thrill of the kill. The lion hunts because he loves eating after the kill. And there are a lot of really talented people who are very effective, and they're better than antelopes, you know, but they're just lions. They hunt to eat. But there's even like a more voracious passion inside of us where we know we love the hunt. And so when I see your thing about, you know, Eat What You Kill, I'm like, you got to learn how to love the hunt. And celebrate the joy of failure and success, and knowing that what is on your table is something you fought for, and in a sense you killed and cooked and put it there for your family.
Which is so powerful. And I think in today's world, I mean, the premise of the book is there's just so many sales herbivores or people that in life that are like, as long as I have a base salary of 100 grand, like I could work here. And I'm like, I've never had a base salary. Like, why would I want a base salary? Like, then it takes away this, like you said, I'm already fed. And it's like, why I can't live unless I have a base or a protection, a safety net. And I'm like, really, that's just your complacency trick. That's just giving you that already fed, taking away your wings. What if you had sky the limit? What if you had an eat what you kill mentality? What if you didn't rely solely on how many people walked into your store or how many leads that clicked on your ad, and you actually took a hunter mentality to this of life, business, whatever it is? And so
I think it builds like fulfillment and like accomplishment and confidence in yourself. And without confidence and without that like fulfillment, you just feel like you're mindlessly wandering. It almost feels like life gets more pointless when you're not actually able to hunt and kill and bring that to your table, to your family, and then to the impact of the lives around you.
powerful.
Yeah, I think the greatest gift God ever gave me is that I'm unemployable.
Yes.
And so
That's a good one.
I never had the tension or the temptation of a salary that was offered to me to make my life easy.
Yeah, I'm unemployable. That's the best
That's Sam
mantra. Yeah, I'm like, yeah. So tell us a little bit about your newest book. You know, you have this book that just came out, The 7 Frequencies of Communication. We're about halfway through. We've already read all of ours.
We're loving it.
We took the assessment. So guys, if you haven't already, go get a copy of 7 Frequencies of Communication. It is available, but also
I think it's like the best self-discovery in understanding yourself and others. Whatever industry, whatever you need, it helps you with leadership. It helps you understand yourself so that you can better communicate, which is what it's all about.
So, you know, it's funny. I wrote a book called The Self-Experience. That was my second book. And I took like every profile assessment, because the first step of the self-experience is understanding your profile, whether it's your, you know, Myers-Briggs, your wealth dynamic, your DISC profile, color code, whatever thing, right? So there's a lot of these out there, but this was a really cool one where you can go take an assessment and understand what your 7 frequencies of communication are. So tell us a little bit about maybe the origin of where this came from and how this plays out for leaders, entrepreneurs, or just even couples. You know what I mean? There's an application in a relationship, there's application in parenting, etc.
Yeah, well, along with the book, there's an assessment that people can access if they want to discover their top 3 frequencies. You know, I've studied human communication for, you know, very, very proactively for probably 40 years and maybe a little longer. And I've been asked many, many times, can you help people become better communicators? And we created a master class that was really, I think, like 10 hours on art of communication. And so we, you know, I started providing different assets, you know, to help people. But I really felt that most of this material on communication is really about like techniques and methodologies. And I didn't want to add to that conversation. I just feel like that menu is just, it's like a fast food menu. You know, here are the techniques and tricks to become a better communicator, rather than here are the things that are a part of the essence of being human. And if you can grow as a human being, you can actually develop extraordinary communication capacity, because the key to communication, or the outcome of communication, is connection. You know, I don't want to just be heard, or I don't want to just understand you. I want to connect with you. And I want you to connect with me. And so what we need to realize is that the end game of communication is connection. If you're on a stage and you're speaking to thousands of people, you're doing something really almost like metaphysical. You're connecting to thousands upon thousands of people in one moment as a singular human being. And that to me is pretty extraordinary. When you think about the fact that you can actually communicate something now and it can go into the virtual world, you can videotape it. You're not even there anymore, but the power of your frequencies are still as vivid and as transformative as when you first spoke them. And there's just something inescapably spiritual about communication that we connect at the deepest level. You know, in terms of your marriage, you know, if you guys are not on the same frequency, if you're not on the same wavelength, you might be in the same house, but you're a million miles apart. Mm. And, you know, if you cannot break down those barriers of hearing each other and understanding each other and seeing each other, it creates this massive divide that is not geographic. And yet when when you're able to be really connected, you don't even need words. You already know what she's feeling. You already know what he's thinking. You're communicating at such a deep level that just the slightest movement of your body or adjustment of your facial expression communicates universes to each other that other people can't see. And so to me, communication is so deep and it's so profound. But what I ended up doing, my son, Aaron, who's my business partner, and maybe I should say I'm his, and because he's the one that runs 90% of everything we do. And he said to me, hey, could you give us a 15-minute gift on communication? And that was on Friday. And so I'm going home going, okay, I need to put together this 15-minute video gift, on Monday. They're going to have cameras ready. And so I went home and I just went into, by the way, I don't need psychedelics because anyone knows me knows that I already live in that state of psychedelic, abstraction. And so I go home and I just, I can't explain how I write, but I write the books inside of me and then I punch them out really fast. And so I kind of hear the book or see the book. And so I just started seeing frequencies that I couldn't sleep for 3 days. And my wife, I think, woke up like at 4 a.m. I'm drenched in sweat. I'm still writing down these frequencies. And I saw 5 of the frequencies right away. It took me day 3 really, or, Sunday night to see the 6th frequency. And then by Monday morning, I saw the 7th frequency. And I realized that I could see the frequencies that were further from me, but I had a harder time seeing the frequencies that were closer to me or were actually mine. So what ended up happening is when I came into the office here and they were ready to film that 15-minute communication gift, I spoke for 6 hours and we created the 7 frequencies of communication. And frankly, I felt like I went through a portal and fell into a universe that just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. Because when I saw the 7 frequencies, something else happened. I did the Zoom call in our arena mastermind, and I said, pick any movie, any TV show, and I'll break it down based on the 7 frequencies. And there were 2 clear winners. One was Friends. I didn't even know people still watched Friends, but evidently Friends is still a thing. And the other one was Succession. And Succession is a much darker, grittier show. It's rated R+ probably. And so that was the one that really interests me. I said, okay, I'm going to go watch Succession and I'm going to identify the 7 frequencies. So I go back and I'm watching the pilot and I can't find a single frequency. And I watch episode 2 and I still don't see a frequency. And I started having a panic attack going, this framework doesn't work. And there's not a single frequency in any of the characters. That's not humanly possible. And then I had this little inner voice that said, go back and watch it and look for the shadows, listen for the shadows, because every frequency has a shadow frequency. Mm-hmm. And when I went back, instantly, all 7 frequencies exploded on the screen. And what I realized is that most of the examples of communication that we are receiving are shadow frequencies, that they're the negative version of our natural human authentic frequencies. And it just aligned perfectly, which for me was an incredible validation. And what I think is interesting, a lot of people have read the book, and right now it's the fastest selling book I've ever written in my life. And I think we already have over 11,000 people around the world who've taken the assessment in just the first few weeks. And what is interesting is that people see themselves in their shadow faster than they do in their authentic frequency. And I've had a lot of people tell me, I wasn't sure until I read the shadow and then I realized, oh my gosh, this is me. And I think a huge part of it is the reason we have so much conflict, the reason we have so much division, the reason we have so much divorce, the reason we have so much misunderstanding is that people are communicating in shadow frequencies and they cannot understand why, no matter how much they say, they're finding more division and separation rather than connection and intimacy. And so I don't know if I've ever written anything that I felt like has more practical, tangible value for the world. And one thing that I think is important is, you've taken the Myers-Briggs and you've taken a lot of assessments, but if you're let's say an ENTJ you're always an ENTJ. If you're an INFJ, you're always an INFJ. And so it's a static process or static system. And so if you take the Strength Finder, which was born out of our community here in LA, your strengths are your strengths essentially for life. Or if you take the DISC, you're a D or an I or S or C. And so these are all static systems. But the 7 frequencies are not a static system. It's a dynamic system, which says you have a core frequency, but you can grow as a human being. And not only can your frequency increase, but you can actually expand the number of frequencies that you can access. And the greatest communicators in the world have highly developed frequencies and have highly expansive frequencies at the same time.
Yeah, they can. Well, you like take Jesus Christ, for example. Like I was kind of architecting because D was like, I'm a healer. And I was like, damn, that's a cool one. And I'm a commander, right? And
yes.
I was like, Christ embodied every one of those frequencies in the sense of he'd walk around and he'd be a healer in some context, but then there were times where he's like, go and do, the authoritative command. And then he brought in the seer and was like, hey, can you not see this? And so it's just interesting to like, you take different architects of, highly developed humans.
They can embody all of those, and they are accustomed to learning how to embody all of those frequencies and understanding all those frequencies. And that's what I loved about the book so much, is that you do teach that, and you also help everybody recognize that, hey, you can acquire all of these frequencies. These are learned frequencies. How do you access that level? You have your core, but you obviously can connect with all of those as you continue to develop and grow as a human being.
And I actually did a talk on Jesus and the 7 frequencies, and it's not in the book because the book is completely general market for anyone who has faith or doesn't have faith. It's just really there to help everyone. But in our community at Mosaic, people really wanted me to break those frequencies down with the life of Jesus. So it was very easy because he does materialize and express all 7 frequencies. Because from my perspective, we're all created in the image of God. So everything that is good about us is a reflection of some attribute of God. And so, yes, you don't always want to be a commander, but when the building is burning or the ship is in a storm, you want a commander frequency. And you just want to make sure you're not using a commander frequency with your 8-year-old daughter, and when you're trying to get her dressed in the morning or something. And
literally talked about that because my stepson, he's 8, and he has this energy around. He's like, Sam's just always telling me what to do, and always like, yeah. So
he doesn't show love.
Doesn't show love. And I actually did a breathwork session last night around this, which is interesting. You kind of stirred up like this concept. So we went to this breathwork session. I'm sitting there in fetal position, just crying because I'm like, I have an inability. Like I struggle at actually just holding my 8-year-old, or I struggle at holding my kids and just like loving on them in its own way. And I noticed the shadow side in the breathwork showed up, and that commander struggles to have kind of that like tender, let me just hold you. There's no effectiveness. There's no efficiency, but it's more about effectiveness. And I struggle tapping into that. So anyway,
it's really cool to learn that you can access all of those different frequencies as you learn and as you grow and develop as a human. And this is just so powerful. I've been all about frequencies lately, and it's all about how you communicate. And it's what frequency do you communicate with somebody when you meet them at the door, or you meet them in a conversation, or you meet them wherever you are. Are you leveling and matching that frequency, or are you trying to let that shadow side show out, and you can't really relate or connect with them very, very fully? Even if you're communicating, you're missing the connection element, which the frequencies helps you integrate all of those.
Yeah. It's funny, the illustrations happen to be exactly what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Yes, I'm bawling my eyes out last night.
He's on that frequency.
I know, I'm like, oh, thanks, Erwin.
And I do think that, Sam, like for yourself, your second dominant frequency is seer.
Yeah.
And what's your son's name?
Alton.
Alden?
Yeah, Alton.
Alton. And so maybe it's like moving into that seer frequency that's still very much who you are, and it's very high, and just tell Alton everything you see about him that's amazing, and become for him his eyes to see the best version of himself, or the future he can be a part of, the world he can create. And so take him into that seer state where you start dreaming with him. And because he will see himself through your eyes.
Yeah. No,
and so, so it's not, and even with command, realizing command is so utilitarian. And when you're tired, you become even more command oriented. And then if you're mad, then you'll move into this dictator. If you don't obey, you're going to be executed. and so you have to realize that.
We know about that.
Employees are listening to this, they'll get a laugh out of that one.
Yeah. And
I think those are two pieces though, tired and mad.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming those types of things create the shadow side.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
when people want to change their shadow without changing themselves, I tell them that's impossible. Your shadow isn't something you have, it's something you are. And so if you want to change your shadow, you got to change yourself. You got to get rid of anger, bitterness, jealousy, greed. You got to get rid of all those negative, dark emotions and start replacing them with hope and love and forgiveness and compassion. That's how you change your shadow to a light.
Well, it's interesting. I'm assuming, the word frequency, when you first came out with the title, 7, frequencies, I was like, I thought of Dr. Hawkins' Force versus Power. Have you read that book? Or Power versus Force? I'm going to send you this frequency chart. So he's like a muscle tester, energy, basically he says everything has a frequency. And the book, the TV show, your sandwich, everything has a frequency. And words have frequencies, people have frequencies, communities, etc. And so there's a baseline of when you move from force, where you're having to like those words that you just said, anger, guilt, ashamed, all those things. And then you shift above and across this line at 200 or something. They have a number.
Which is courage.
Which is courage. And then it moves into, great gratitude, acceptance,
enlightenment, love, gratitude, willingness.
And it goes up to 1,000. And so it's kind of this interesting, when I first heard it, I was like, I wonder if there's any correlation or if he's read that book of when you shift into a element of power, which is more that attraction, which is more that non-shadow side. And as you've kind of gone through this, I think there's some interesting parallels between the two, which is
I love
beautiful.
that you bring up the shadow side, because I do think that, a lot of people resonate with that, but I do love the opposition in all things, because if you didn't know the shadow side, you wouldn't know the strength side. And I think that's the most beautiful thing about this, is that you have both, and you get to understand both and discover both, because it teaches you what you can operate in better, or what you like better. And if you didn't have the opposition, you would never know. And I think that's what's beautiful about how God created us, is we get the opportunity to have that opposition, so that we're not robotic. We can connect with people, we can communicate with people. And if we didn't know both, then it would be very just level mundane.
For sure.
Yeah. And even when you think about sales, part of the reason sales has such a bad name and has such a bad historical mythology around it is a lot of people in sales were operating from their shadows. And they're probably operating their shadows because of fear, or could have been operating in the shadow because of guilt or because of greed. And so when you're not being motivated, when you're being motivated by negative emotions rather than to serve people. And that's why, it sounds too simple, but if you can just shift your mindset from I'm trying to sell something to I'm trying to serve people, it shifts your frequency. You move from the performer to the motivator. You move from the manipulator to the challenger. You move from the dictator to the commander. So you instantly shift when you're going, I'm not here to sell, I'm here to serve. And I'm here to help people solve problems in their life that I've trained myself to have the skills to know how to solve that problem for them. Without me, that problem is going to circle around their life forever, and I can change the quality of their life. And so the moment you begin to make that shift, your frequency changes.
You need to drop that at D2D plug that somewhere in your speech. That is so good.
That is so good.
That is so good. I'm telling you, weave that in, whatever you're going to talk on, weave that in.
That is it. Yeah, that's the mentality of and that's what gets you to be able to help other people, is that mentality shift, is that mind shift.
So another question, you said, I'm the opposite. I'm the 7th. What is yours?
Well, my primary frequency is something called a maven. And It's not a very common frequency, and it maybe sometimes it's not a very helpful frequency. And I did a talk yesterday, and one of our team members, Austin, asked me right before I went on stage, what frequency are you going to use for your talk? And it was a really significant talk for us. And I said, I know I should. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about finances. So I probably should use like commander or challenger, but I think I'm going to just use my primary frequencies and be a maven and a seer. And so one of the quotes that came out of the talk yesterday, and I'm looking at it right now, it says, "We exist in the realm of non-existence." And, my wife looks at it and goes, "I have no idea what that means." and my son, who's a commander, and who really takes everything I do and makes it incredibly practical and accessible to people. He said, "Dad, I just want you to understand that quote means nothing to me." and it's probably my favorite quote from the whole talk that I did. And because I talked about how most of us focus on what exists. Like we have iPhones and we have electricity, or we have lights and we have light bulbs and we have cars, and all that exists. But at some point, all of those things existed in the realm of non-existence. They were all in the world of ideas, and the only way they move into reality is with the fuel of love. When an idea is fueled by love, it moves into creation. And so I have this maven frequency where I just kind of see everything from not on the edge of the box, but maybe from some place where the box has never traveled. And I have to work really hard at translating my ideas to everyday life for everyday people. And one of the things that has helped me be grounded is I don't think an idea matters until there's action. And I said, and I believe the only ideas that matter are the ones that cause us to act. And that has really grounded my thinking, because there are a lot of people who think they have a great idea and they've never risked anything. There's no proof of concept if it's just in your head. Yeah. And so I'm driven throughout my life to prove my ideas to be true. And frankly, like one of the things when you're talking, was going through my mind that I didn't even mention was that 50 years ago, scientists believed that the universe was eternal. And that's why there was no need for God. But now, the overwhelming shift in science is that there was, in the last 50 years, that there was a beginning of the universe, and that what existed right before the universe is this concept called quantum fluctuations. And so when I look at like the 7 frequencies of communication, I'm going, what scientists are now saying is that there was a voice, because that's what a quantum fluctuation is. Like if God spoke, it would be scientifically identified as a quantum fluctuation. And what we don't realize is that, in a sense, we're an echo or an undercurrent of how God creates, of the divine. And so when we speak, there's a quantum fluctuation. We're creating as we speak. But we're not creating out there in the world we can't control, because we're not God, but we're creating in the universes of each person's soul. So when you look at your kids and you tell them they matter, you're speaking into the universe of them and creating something in them. But also if you say something like, are you ever going to get it? Or why are you so stupid? Or you're lazy. You're also speaking into the universe of that child. And so there's some sense that we have to take almost like a cosmic, like divine responsibility in saying, my words have power. And I do not have the luxury to speak death or to speak negativity or to speak into someone something that would make them less.
That is so
good. That is so good, because on so many levels, a lot of even what is spoken into them is lies. If it's not coming from a source of what God would say, or what someone who truly loves and operates from a place of love and cares about you would say, it's a lie, essentially, because we're with him, we're part of him, and God, universal consciousness, we're all part of that. And so only good things come of that with what he has spoken into the world and into the existence. And so that's in your internal world. That is, I could go, I'm like losing my mind.
That's just an example of the maven frequency. I was just using that as an example.
It is so powerful.
Guys, I'm like, wait a minute, podcast 2.0. Geez, I'm like, we could go down a rabbit hole. Hence why I'm excited for Iceland. Hence why I'm excited for Door-to-Door Con. You know, just you being, like you said, 30 years ago, we're like, that's us. You know, we're in our young 30s. And for us, it's like, this gives me so much excitement that, you know, just seeing you as kind of an idol, you know, a guy that I could, you know, learn from and be mentored by is just what a cool opportunity, even just in the wise words you've shared in this podcast. I mean, for me, I'm, like I said, I have a list. When you say like speak, like you said, everything is created conceptually before it's created physically, or the spiritual design before the physical design. And it's like, I have a thing called the lifestyle design where it's kind of its own practice of manifestation where one of the exercises design out, you know, your 100 experiences, 100 things you want. And one of them was just people you want to meet. And so you are always on this list of people you want to meet. And, you know, it's not a long list. It's probably 15.
All of these.
Yeah, I read all these. I actually, I haven't read The Artisan Soul yet, but all the other ones I have. And I'm halfway through 7 Frequencies. We just got it last week. So,
well, now both of you guys are on my list of people I want to meet.
Well, we're hanging in January.
Yep.
And you know, it's this concept of like what you just said. It's that creation around, you know, you first have to create it spiritually, then you write it out, you design it, and then it starts to happen. And you look at like this as a simple use case of what he just taught. So if you're listening, it's like, I'm trying to teach you a simple framework. This was written 2 years ago. And, you know, I slowly left breadcrumbs knowing that something like this could happen. Why Door-to-Door Con speech. And I said, hey, who do I know that knows? And how do I connect that connects? And randomly I got a FaceTime from Erwin at SolarCon last year. And he's just like, Sam. And I was like, whoa, he just FaceTimes me. Like, not all the time when you get a group text with somebody, they just quickly reply with a FaceTime. And I was like, wow, what an honor. And I knew from that moment, I was like, yeah, this guy needs to be in my sphere and my world. And there's so much we get to learn from Erwin and his wisdom and years of experience and as many people as he's helped. So I really just appreciate your authenticity and your ability to eat the mushrooms. You know what I mean? I think a lot of us are benefiting because you chose to eat the mushrooms. And
to be on that high frequency and to be the one that changes humanity in the words that you speak and things that you understand, it's really powerful.
So anyway, we appreciate you. And guys, if you haven't got your tickets yet, come meet Erwin, come hang.
You're not going to want to miss the good words he's going to speak into your life.
And if you got some value out of this, go share with some people this episode because it's definitely could impact some people. And if you haven't already, go get his book and take the assessment, 7 Frequencies of Communication. Any last words, Erwin, you want to share?
No, man, I hope you get better quickly. And I look forward to January. We're going to have a great time together. And I just really, really enjoyed the conversation today.
No, thank you.
Likewise.
Appreciate you.
Likewise.
Okay. We'll see you, man.
All right. Take care, guys. Blessings.